Welcome to this digital seminar. As CEO of Stockholm Business Region, I'm truly excited to take part of the dialogue that we will have here today. And I would like to welcome you all to this digital seminar. The new report that we will be discussing today from Invest Stockholm on advanced therapeutic manufacturing and life science in the Stockholm-Uppsala region is truly a very interesting report. I'm thrilled to note that the sector has grown in the Stockholm region by 66% over the last 4 years, with of course all the benefits that this entails both for the region and the life science ecosystem. This is for Stockholm truly an important and a growing industry. The Stockholm-Uppsala region is home to global companies as well as an ever-increasing number of specialist startups, and Stockholm is becoming a leading international hub for companies wishing to establish and expand their advanced therapeutic manufacturing facilities. But what underpins this extremely good growth that we are now seeing? I think that the report makes it very clear that the thriving Uppsala-Stockholm life science cluster benefits hugely from a long tradition of collaboration between the public sector, the university, and the industry. And in the region's many hubs for innovation and entrepreneurship, transparent structures and a sense of common purpose enable local governments, life science companies, and universities to work together to create a truly better, brighter future. And as the report also shows, the region's success can also be explained by factors including a very diverse talent pool, stable operation conditions, exceptional physical infrastructure, world-leading environmental credentials, and of course, a very attractive business environment. But there are also many specific advantages for advanced therapeutic manufacturing, and the importance of the sector to the economy means that it receives very active and targeted government support. I think two facts that's especially striking to me is that exports in the life science sector now account for 10% of Sweden's national total export. And Stockholm has had more IPOs 2018 in the life science sector than any other EU city. That surely is fact that makes it clear how very blooming the city is concerning the life science sector. But you shouldn't take it from me. I encourage you to dive into the report to learn more about the exceptional work being done to fuel the sector by organizations like Business Sweden, Invest Stockholm, the Pharmaceutical Trade Association LEAF, and Sweden Bio, alongside, of course, the work being done in the universities in Stockholm and Uppsala that are among the best in the world. It's also incredibly illuminating to read the stories of life science companies based in the Stockholm region to hear what they think makes the Stockholm-Uppsala life science cluster so special. The report also features a detailed overview of the sector by Professor Johan Rockberry from the Royal Institute of Technology and Katrina Blueberg, Vice President of Cell and Gene Therapy at Citiva. To conclude, if you're watching this as an investor or a company considering whether the Stockholm region might be the right place for you, please follow the discussion during the coming hour and then get in touch. We would love to have you here. And with that, please, Ylva and Rickard, could you guide us through the coming hour?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us in this webinar. My name is Ylva Hultman. I'm Head of Life Science at Invest Stockholm. So we will soon be listening to Jakob Lund from AstraZeneca and Bjorn Samberg from Cambrix, Jannik Högstedt from Valneva, Johan Rockberry from the Royal Institute of Technology, and Katrina Blueberg from Citiva. So in the end of the session, we will have some time for a few questions, and please use the Q&A function. But first, I would like to introduce our moderator, Richard Hayhurst, who together with Janet Joy helped me with this report. So some words about who we are. We are owned by the City of Stockholm, and we collaborate with 53 other cities forming Stockholm Business Alliance. And our aim is to assist and point out interesting investment opportunities. So with that, I would like to say thank you very much for your attention. And with this, I will leave the word to Richard Hayhurst. Please, Richard.
Thank you, Ulva. So we jumped at the chance to write this report because through our work in life science communications internationally and in the Nordics, we saw that there really is an incredibly fast growing cluster of advanced therapeutics manufacturing in this region. And we thought it was very well worth reporting on. And so we've also got a great lineup of speakers today. And I think that also illustrates one of the key take-home points I would like to give you, is that the spirit of collaboration in the region. And there's a genuinely willingness for people to work together to develop the sector, share their knowledge. So let's just get on with these wonderful speakers. And the first one I would like to introduce is Jakob Lund, who's the Corporate Affairs Director from AstraZeneca AB. And their Södertälje plant actually accounts for 40% of AstraZeneca's manufacturing. And so Jakob's also obviously very busy now with the situations that are going on, but he's given us some of his very valuable time. So over to you, Jakob.
Thank you very much, Richard, and congratulations on the report. I'm happy to contribute to this event by sharing a little bit more about what AstraZeneca is doing in the Stockholm region and in Södertälje, which is actually the place where Astra, part of our company, was founded back in 1913. Ever since then, we have been delivering pharmaceuticals out of Södertälje, and today we export to markets all around the world. We are approximately 5,000 employees in Södertälje, which may come as a surprise to those of you who still have the impression that AstraZeneca more or less left when our R&D center in the city was closed in 2012. But in fact, the manufacturing site we have in Södertälje is by far the largest one within our global network, and it's also one of the largest plants in the world in the pharmaceutical industry. It accounts for approximately 40% of our total sales in the company, and as an illustration, 9 out of our 10 largest medicines are currently being manufactured in Södertälje. Just on the volume side, to give you a little perspective, nearly 14 billion tablets were produced last year. And in addition, a significant number of inhalers, vials, and liquid solutions. And we also have our own manufacturing center for active substances, so-called API manufacturing. And we support all the 3 core therapy areas we have at AstraZeneca: cardiovascular, renal, and metabolic diseases, respiratory and inflammation, and oncology. In 2015, which is now nearly 6 years ago, we decided to invest in a new manufacturing center for biological medicines, which actually opened for commercial manufacturing by the end of last year. And this was a major global investment of approximately $300 million in Sweden and the Stockholm region to support our growing biologics portfolio. So the new plant here is a highly flexible multi-product aseptic fill and pack manufacturing plant. And it's also a strategic launch site for newly approved products. Here we are around 200 people, and we continue to hire great talents. And in addition to all the manufacturing, our site in Södertälje is also the headquarters for our Nordic marketing company, as well as a number of enabling functions. So how do we see the future? And if I start by looking back a few years, we've grown our presence in the region steadily from 2013 and onwards, and increased our footprint, or the number of employees, with approximately 30%. The last 10 years, we have invested approximately 12.5 billion Swedish kronor in our existing and new plants in Södertälje. and we are anticipating continued investments of around 1.5 billion per year. We're also obviously investing in our people and in their skills, and we appreciate, as all other companies on the call, the importance of lifelong learning. Competence is going to be a key going forward, and one example of how we need to approach it differently is that our company's focus has shifted from mostly focusing on primary care products and large volumes to a more healthy mix between primary and specialty care. And this also affects our manufacturing, which, if I put it a little bit bluntly, will go from large volumes of a limited number of products to a larger variety of products with smaller volumes, with all the increased complexity that entails. We need to have access to the best talents, and we need to build competence for the future. And we do also locally collaborate with Scania and around a technology college in Södertälje, which is called Mälardalen Technology College. We are also collaborating with the Royal Institute of Technology and Scania, among others, around education programs at KTH campus in Södertälje, which respond to many of our requirements, and many more collaborations in this region. I'll finish off by saying a few words about why we are in Sweden. Why are we in the Stockholm region? I sometimes get asked, why are you not doing manufacturing in a country with a lower cost level for salaries, etc.? And there are many answers to that. The first is that we appreciate the link between R&D and manufacturing, and thus want to have significant manufacturing where we have our R&D centers. And for Sweden, our R&D hub is in Gothenburg, our manufacturing in Södertälje, and it's easy to collaborate between the sites. The second reason I touched a bit on earlier, we've been here for more than 100 years, and we have created a culture for continuous improvements, development and learning. So we have a lot of know-how and lots of very skilled people. And now we also need to capture and embed a digital mindset in everything we do. We work a lot with partners here, and that is important to us, that Sweden continue to invest in AI and build on the very strong tech know-how that we have, not at least in this region. The third and the last is that Sweden is a stable country to be in. We have quite good political predictability, and we are not very affected by natural disasters. We can also export to the whole world from Sweden. In 2019, we exported goods worth 67 billion Swedish kronor. And as our company continued to grow, the exports are also are expected to increase. So on that positive note, I thought I'd close and look forward to the rest of the session. Many thanks.
Thank you so much, Jakob. And I think you already heard that word collaboration quite a few times there. And also this sort of general environment in Sweden where you have people like Scania and other advanced manufacturers. So there are a lot of sort of cross-fertilization of ideas. So next, we'd like to pass on to Cambrix, and they're a sort of leading manufacturer of small molecule innovator and generic APIs. And Bjorn Samberg is the CEO in the Karlskoga plant, and that's a city west of Stockholm. And as with AstraZeneca, and as a historian, I'm fascinated by this, they have very deep roots going back to not last century, 2 centuries ago now, where Alfred Nobel was based there. And this is where he actually came up with the idea of the Nobel Prizes. So over to you, Bjarne.
Thank you very much. And my name is Bjorn Samberg, and I'm the managing director for Cambrix here in Karlskoga. I have been in this position for about 7.5 years now, and worked for this company in 20 years. So I'm happy to talk a little bit more about Cambrix and also about our growth journey and our recent investment that we are making in the Swedish operations. As you probably know and heard from, we have a very long history here, and it originates all back from Alfred Nobel, where he had a house here, a mansion, where he lived in the back end of his life. And that's basically the reason for why we have a Nobel Prize. The wheel was settled here in Karlskoga back in the days. So Cambrix, we are a leading small molecule company focusing on small molecules. We provide drug substance, drug product and services across all different stages in the drug life cycle. Our facility here in Karlskoga produces mainly active pharmaceutical ingredients and also pharma intermediates. We support also the customers with besides manufacturing services, also with process development and analytical development services. Our customers is global customers, big pharma, and also smaller biotech companies, mostly in the Nordic and Northern Europe area. We have the focus here in Europe, of course, for geographical reasons, but also have a lot of customers also in the US, being an American company, part of an American company. In addition to that, we have customers also in Turkey, India, China, Japan, and other places. And the service we provide is from grams to tons. We have very different scales of production lines. It starts with a 50 to 100 liter scale, up to the largest, which is 12,000 liter or 12 cubic meter scale, multi-purpose CGMP production equipment. So our expertise, of course, includes then CGMP production and pretty much all different organic chemical transformations. We run a lot of projects for custom development and custom manufacturing for our customers. So therefore we have broad experience from variety of processes. Our specialties from the heritage, also from Alfred Nobel, is of course high energy. We also have continuous flow in the company, both in smaller scale, but also in really large scale. Biocatalysis processes, green chemistry, and we also can handle controlled substances and potent materials here at the site, down to occupational exposure levels of 1 microgram per cubic meter air. That was a bit about us. Talking about our growth and our growth journey a little bit more. The basis, of course, is that we see good continued growth in commercial scale API manufacturing, and also a trend that customers favoring, again, I would say, high quality European and US suppliers. And what we have done recent year is then to both invest in the R&D lab, where we had that 600 square meter of tech lab, where we can run demo batches and do simulations for scale up. And there also the engineers can be working with the chemist in that stage of a project. We also added a new warehouse. It's about 3,000 square meter, where we can handle both raw materials as well as finished goods. But perhaps more importantly, we have added a lot of capacity at the site, and currently we have just completed an investment of a new 6 cubic meter multi-purpose flexible production line with 4 reactors, auxiliary vessels and equipment, of course, and also a large scale 4 square meter Rosamund filter dryer to isolate the products and dry it. And some years ago, 3-4 years now, actually, it's we put in a lot of money in a really large scale hydrogenation production unit for one of our large customers. This investment also added then a bunch of 12 cubic meter scale reactors to the site. And as part of this expansion, we have grown to about 450 co-workers at the site. It's a combination of scientists, chemists, and of course production operators and engineers. Looking back a few years, we have added approximately 100 people over the last 3-4 years, and we also see this continued growth to be continue. And looking at our workforce also, it's very young. It's quite young. It's also very skilled and definitely also international, especially in the R&D side, where we have actually successfully recruited PhD chemists from the different university in this area, and it has come from different parts also from the world. So it's interesting to see that diversity. Very, very good for us. Finally, on health and safety, always a very high focus here at our site, and we have also started over the last couple of years to really focus on improving the sustainability and reduce our footprint. And here we have an ambitious program, and of course, the target here is to be climate neutral.
That's great.
I believe this is essential not only for the environment but also for our future growth. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you so much, Bjorn. So now I'd also like to move on to Valneva, which very much in the headlines, excuse me, losing my voice there, the specialty vaccine company, and they're just north of Stockholm in Solna. And they have an inactivated virus vaccine, which you perhaps heard about. And they were able to respond very rapidly to the COVID pandemic because of the substantial investments they've made over the years in high-speed fill and finish lines. So now I'd like to pass over to Janet Högstrata, who's the chairman of the management board.
Thank you, Richard, and thanks for this opportunity to both contribute to the brochure, but also to this webinar. The vaccine operations that Valneva has in Solna have been part of Valneva since 2015. But as the previous two speakers, the site here, when it comes to vaccine operations, has a long history. A number of decades have been spent in vaccine research and development and also manufacturing. Today, the site focuses on process development and GMP manufacturing and distribution. Currently, we produce the drug substance, the active ingredients of our cholera vaccine, so bacterial ingredients and also recombinant protein. And we do the aseptic fill finish for the product and distribute it to all the countries in the world. We also have GMP facilities for clinical trial manufacturing that we currently use for producing virus material and viral vectors. So in 2019, we expanded our facility with a new GMP facility to allow us to produce higher volumes of viral vectors that we do now for an external customer. And then last year, 2020, we invested in upgrading our bulk production for the bacterial and recombinant proteins. So with completely new production system and tanks and all the infrastructure. Since the brochure interview, we have progressed, as Richard said, our COVID-19 vaccine candidates into clinical phase 1 and 2. And at the same time, we have scaled up our manufacturing to commercial scale and building up inventory to be ready when our vaccine gets approved. As Richard said, it's a whole virus vaccine inactivated with adjuvant. So it's the more traditional method of developing vaccines. Many vaccines on the market are produced with this kind of technology, and hence there is a wealth of information on this technology and in general also on the use of a vaccine like this. And we see this as a broadening of the portfolio of the COVID-19 vaccines that are now approved, so the mRNA vaccines and the viral vectors. For Valneva, the active ingredients is produced in Scotland. The decision is based on that we do a similar active ingredient production in Scotland at the Valneva production site there. And then we do the aseptic fill finish in Solna in Sweden, where we have the experience of filling with a high-speed filling line. What we've done now is adapted the filling line that we've used for our cholera vaccine to be able to fill and to start quickly filling the COVID-19 vaccine. And we're now in commercial scale. At the same time, we are building a new facility to increase the production output fivefold, because as we all realize, the needs are enormous. We did that by investing in a new facility, which is walking distance of our current facility, about 5 minutes walking distance in the area of Tomteboda in Solna. And we invested in this by approximately 250 million crowns. So for the future, we see that this Swedish investment that we make in our filling line will allow us to use that for getting the commercial scale that we need for our COVID-19 vaccine, but also would allow us to invest in filling and packaging of our other vaccines that we have in phase 2 and 3 developments. And we could also use it, of course, for preparing for our next pandemic, which is definitely on the horizon for a lot of people to get better prepared for next needs. With the experience that we have in vaccine production, the expertise and the facilities, we think that we are well equipped to play a role in this preparedness, but also in the future of Valneva in Sweden. And also here the question is why in Sweden? Well, we believe that it's not only what we can offer ourselves in the company, but it's also the very good environment. Of course, recruiting is really important as we are scaling up so quickly now. We need to have access to personnel that is either already experienced or that we can quickly get to the right level of experience and employ in our facilities. But it is also a lot about the support systems around. We've been very happy to get the support from Invest Stockholm, from Business Sweden in our investment searches for new facilities, for just to support our investments in general. And then, as said before, the academic collaborations with academia, with other companies. There is a very good environment for sharing what can be shared between companies so that you don't have to invent the wheel by yourself. So this is a very appreciated collaboration between small, medium-sized and large companies in the Sweden or in the Nordic area. And then also collaborations with academia. There are good consortiums within the area of manufacturing, the Sweden area, that will allow us to tap into new technology and then hopefully quickly use that in our industry. So with that, I'd like to hand back to Richard, and thanks for the opportunity to present Valneva.
Thank you so much, Janet. And one thing, Janet's background, as Ulva's background, illustrate one of the other major attractions of setting up in Sweden. Stockholm, Uppsala, Solna, beautiful cities. And then you have the landscape and the nature. And I think this leads in quite nicely to our next speaker, who's at one of the universities. Because if you walk around the universities now in Stockholm and Uppsala, you get almost an MIT feeling. Some of the best and brightest young kids are coming now to study and to start their careers in Sweden because they love the lifestyle. So that gave you a feeling for some of the companies. There are others in the report. And now we thought we'd be very interesting to hear from a couple of the leading experts in the field on how they see it developing over the next decade. And first of those is Johan Rockberry. I'm often tempted to call him Johan Rockstar because he's an incredible academic who not only loves translational research, but even through to the stage he's fascinated by the actual final manufacturing stages of new advanced therapeutics. And so I think he can give us a unique overview on where the advanced therapeutic sector is going from research through to actual medicines, which we can all hopefully benefit from in the future. So Johan, over to you.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, Richard. So my name is Johan Rockberg, and I'm a professor then at the Royal Institute of Technology located here in the city of the center of Stockholm. And just a quick word on what I'm working with is actually trying to make this very complex thing called drug development into something that is a little bit more tightly linked and where we speak the same language and where we actually learn from each other from the discovery phase through the proof of concepts in animal models, the production of the drug, and the clinical studies, really to squeeze this together, having PhD students that cover all of these aspects during their training in my lab at our university. So we really try to make an effort in expediting the translations. And we'll come back a little bit later on to why I think that is of essence. But first of all, I'd like to give you a little bit of a background where I think we are standing in Sweden today when it comes to pharmaceuticals. As we have learned, there are new classes of drugs coming out, and these have indeed new needs of how to be produced. So we know that we have an extreme knowledge in how to both discover, develop processes for, and manufacture what is called the small molecular drug or the first generation drugs. And we are continuously innovating this area in Sweden. And you already heard Cambrix and AstraZeneca. These are indeed two top class companies leading this area, and they are still improving. And they both mention carbon neutrality and how they can make this even more green. And we have seen numerous examples of how new Swedish spin-outs are working in this area of how to help large and small companies making their processes even smaller. So I made a quick overview here where I'm listing the substance and how you make it, chemical synthesis in this case, and where we are standing, I would say. So this is like looking at this area or Sweden in large, how well are we out? So I would say that we are indeed very well out when it comes to discovery of new modalities. There are plenty of new ideas and new biologies identified on translating findings to medicines. We are indeed also very well out when it comes to process development, and with one of the world's largest factories in Södertälje, I think we are also world leading when it comes to manufacturing of these kinds of pharmaceuticals. And then, of course, all countries want to have all of the pluses in all of these boxes. And when we look at the second generation drugs, the protein drugs to say, these are typically insulin or drugs that are needed to be injected, or like antibodies like Herceptin, for example. These are produced in a completely different manner, needing a completely different set of skill sets for their making. So these are typically made in cells instead of in chemical synthesis labs, where one make use of maybe bacterial cells, but more often now, if you look at the top selling drugs, these are mainly made in mammalian cells or human cells, but particularly in CHO cells. So they have a different need. And here I would say that we are still very well out when it comes to discovery. We have a lot of discovery companies. We have also a lot of companies that are pursuing this into process development. And also we have numerous companies producing these. And hopefully now with AstraZeneca also launching their new sites for biologics, we will have even more manufacturing coming out of our country. So this looks indeed very exciting. Looking a little bit further ahead and at the third generation of pharmaceuticals, which are I grouped them together now, cell and gene therapies. In this case, it may be the product is no longer a pill. It's not longer a single molecule. It's actually something as complex as a cell. It could be, as in this picture here, a patient's own cells that are taken out, boosted, and returned back to the patient. So the drug is actually the input stream to the process is actually a patient's blood, and then it's boosted and sent back. There can also be these new curative treatments, such as gene therapies, where we know that we can today cure or help blind people rather to regain their vision with a single injection of a new drug, or also for paralyzed children to regain their ability to move their arms and legs with new approved drugs based on gene therapies. So these are indeed sort of revolutionizing new therapies, but they have completely new needs of how they are produced. And here I would again say that we are very well off with discovery. Process development is indeed something that is everyone struggling with in the whole world now. We do not have any approved drugs from Sweden as of yet. We don't have any manufacturing in Sweden either. So this is, of course, an area where I think we will see even more growth in Sweden. And I'll come back to why I think we will see it in Sweden. With this new kind of drugs, there is also new business models. When the product is no longer a pill, and where the input stream to the process is, say, blood, we need to really know what's coming in. Diagnostics is an integral part of the product, and also the production becomes an integral part of the product. These little, they're called beehives, are indeed small reactors producing boosted cells for one patient each. So you have patient's blood coming in here, and you have the drug coming out in the other end. And this can take very small, so these are very small reactors compared to like the 20,000 liters reactors you typically think of when thinking about the pharmaceutical industry. And in order to actually know how to adequately produce these, say, CAR-Ts, for example, which is a typical very important drug, you need to know a lot about the origin of these cells, what it consists of, and the molecular profile. So hence, knowing really having excellent means of diagnostics is something that plays into this. And as we see that there is not this huge volume anymore, it's something here, and it's a lot of integrated circuits. There's a lot of sort of microfluidics. There's a lot of new kind of things. We know that we have a lot of other Swedish companies that are leaders in their other respective fields that potentially could contribute to this. When it comes to both data analysis, we have one of the most shining ICT sectors in Stockholm on a global level, with companies, global companies such as Ericsson, for example, or ABB, that are contributing to this. So this is an area where I see potential of having even more collaboration and maybe new business models for these traditional companies. Just want to list again, these are again the universities that are here that are experts in this, where we on KTH are more on the technology side, and then we have the Stockholm University Karolinska Institute and the Uppsala University who are contributing also more broadly to knowledge in this area. And we look at the diagnostics field. These are some of the companies that have recently been founded and also made a significant impact to our industry, with Katana recently being bought by 10x. We have one of these diagnostics from Uppsala, Atlas Antibodies in Solna. Of course, we have SciLife Lab, who covers this area, linking the universities together with an also wishing to have translational activities. Genomics Medicine Sweden and Olink are some of these. And then, of course, we have the pharmaceutical companies making drugs in this area. So these are not just discovery companies. These are the ones that deliver drugs from this area, with AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Sobi, Octapharma, Valneva in this area. And then not at least the key technology providers such as Cytiva, which are sort of delivering the technology that all of these companies on a whole global level needs. They are actually located here in Uppsala. And Alfa Laval, also a key developer when it comes to separation technologies for this industry, also located here. So I think it's a very, very interesting ecosystem. And of course, we at KTH, we want them to be able to train students that can take part in helping produce these next generation drugs, and being then enabling us to make a more sustainable way of production of biologics or pharmaceuticals in general. And we hope to be able to deliver trained personnel both to the ICT sector, but also to the pharma sector, and where there is actually not really as much of a difference where sector you actually initially go to, that there should be an equal opportunity for you to reach success in many of these industries that we see now are merging together. Yeah, so with that, I think I'm done with my small talk. So handing up back to you, Richard.
Thank you so much, Johan. And excuse me, again, I think you can see that the students you're going to get coming out of Johan's classes and courses, how infused and creative they're going to be, and also very aware of the links between industry and academia. And so then we brings us now to Katrina Blueberg from Cytiva. And I guess all of you know that Sweden really is the home of protein science, has been and probably will be in the future, with projects such as the Protein Atlas that was mentioned there by Matthias Ulen. And so Cytiva is the company that turns a lot of this protein research into tools which make the therapeutics of the future possible. So Katarina, who I think is very passionate as well, this is not just a job for her, I think her mission is, how do we make precision medicine actually come true? So over to you, Katarina.
Thank you very much, Richard, for those kind words. So hello, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate in this event as well as contributing to the publication. So I'm Katrina Blueberg. We are a technology company present in Uppsala, and I lead the cell and gene therapy business there. We as a company working with academic researchers all the way through to large biopharmaceutical companies. And we supply, as Johan explained here, the tools and services that all of these customers need to do their work better. And for those of you who don't know, Cytiva has been based in Sweden for more than 60 years, although a company has undergone several name changes and transformation. We are also known as Pharmacia Biotech and GE Healthcare Life Sciences. And one of the fundamental products at Cytiva, actually its original product back in '58, actually, the chromatography resin is still a very fundamental product in our portfolio, and it's used in the production of biological drugs, including insulin. And actually our products are used for more than 90% of all insulins manufactured on the globe. So the expertise of the company has enabled breakthroughs really in science and medicines, and has really changed the way that diseases like cancer and diabetes has been treated over the years. So we are determined, we are to be at the forefront of drug discovery and development. And we are currently more than 8,000 employees worldwide, out of which 2,000 are based in Sweden and growing. So at Cytiva, our mission is to advance and accelerate the therapeutics, and in the nascent field of cell and gene therapy, we have also played quite an important role in advancing these therapies from the academic research to the commercial production. And as Johan already touched upon, the gene therapies are aiming at treating, preventing, and potentially also curing diseases. And I think it's amazing to think about diseases that once were considered fatal could potentially be cured with these technologies. And I would say it's such an exciting time in our industry, and to be part of the research cluster here in Stockholm, Uppsala. And over the last 25 years, we have seen really the biologics market transformed by standardization, by automation. And I think that's exactly what needs to happen also in the gene and cell therapy industry. Now that we know that the therapy works, the science works, we need to take it from research-driven process to a more standardized procedures, which can be industrialized. And it's a challenge for sure, but we're making progress, I would say. And our experience from the bioprocess space is really, really beneficial here. So then some of you might ask, I mean, if Cytiva have accomplished so much in the biologics field together with all the customer in the space, what's taking so long time to automate and standardize the processes for cell and gene therapy? And I think Johan touched upon that to some extent. And I would like to start with saying logistics. Logistics is truly a challenge for these, especially for the cell therapies, because when cells are extracted from a patient, it must be frozen at cryogenic temperatures before being thawed and manufactured, and then frozen again before sending back to be administered to the patient. That's a current cell therapy. And as you can tell, it's really a complex ecosystem from the patient to the drug manufacturer and back to the patient again. So while then biologics are derived from living cells, the current cell therapies use the patient's own cells. So the patient is actually part of the manufacturing process, and that is part of the really logistical dilemma here. But manual workflows are also creating challenges, and right now the technology is very manual and labor intensive. But as the standard is, as the industry works to standardize and industrialize processes, it will be really needed to have automation around the entire workflow. We need to increase the speed of which the therapies are manufactured. So industrialization of the workflow will also ensure the quality of each product, because an automated process, we know, is always better and always gives a better result than a manual one. It will also help to address the third challenge, and the third challenge is affordability. There are currently 4 FDA-approved cell therapies, and as we heard, none in Sweden yet. Hope to see some soon. But we have 2 from Kite Pharma. There is another one from Novartis, and the 4th one just the other day from Bristol Myers Squibb or Juno. And the prices for all of these ranges between 300,000 to 400,000 per individual. And while that might sound astronomical and is a huge sum of money, it's also important to note that it's a one-time cost if it works. And since these are potential curative treatments. But how do you put a value on a person's life and a treatment that could allow them to live for another 20, 30, or 50 years? So it's really the cost of manufacturing these novel therapeutics that is a significant factor is the price. And the high cost is currently preventing many people from assessing these therapies. But let's not forget that biologics were extremely expensive 25 years back, and thanks to automation and standardization, the costs have been reduced significantly. And very much of that is based actually on Swedish inventions from KTH and Mattias Ullin's team on the Protein A platform, which is the platform throughout the entire biologic space of monoclonal antibody manufacturing. However, we know that we cannot do all these things alone. Collaborations and partnerships are critical to advancing also cell and gene therapy industry. And Cytiva, we have always been strong in the relationship with the academics, research centers, as well as governments. And here in Sweden, KTH, Uppsala University, Karolinska Institute, and all the rest has been a really strong partners over the years. And several years ago, with the support of the Swedish government, we opened the Testa Center in Uppsala. And Testa Center is a place where researchers and entrepreneurs can test their ideas in a larger scale and with that also accelerating their development. So in its initial focus for Testa Center was biological therapeutics, but we have recently expanded to include also cell and gene therapy. And this is really an exciting development that we see right now. So conclusion is we need to work all together to make the cell and gene therapies accessible to patients who need them the most. And I would like to conclude with saying there has never been a more exciting time to be in the biotechnology industry. We are seeing firsthand now how science can solve the world's greatest health challenges. And cell and gene therapies has the potential to really transform healthcare and cure previously uncurable diseases. And to have this to happen, we need to solve the challenges again, logistics, get away from the manual workflows, and also get the affordability challenges solved. We need to standardize, we need to industrialize, and finally, it's critical that we continue working together to make these life-saving therapies accessible for all who need them. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Katarina. So I think that you've seen the passion from all of our speakers, and back to Oliver, who will run you through some of the, as I say, the facts and figures.
Thank you very much, Richard. And I want to take the opportunity now already. Thank you to all the speakers. It's really very exciting what you are doing here. Thank you very much again. So I just wanted to make a very short summary of the ecosystem in the Stockholm-Uppsala region. And I think that we have the ecosystem in place and that we have what is needed from bench to bedside. So we have the world-class education, Karolinska Institute, at KTH, Stockholm University, and Uppsala University, among other universities. And we also have the higher vocational education that is really important when setting up a new site and a manufacturing site. And we have the teacher's privilege. That means that researchers at Swedish universities are given the rights to their own research results so that they can create their own business. And we have the personal identification number. And this means that we have unique databases and biobanks as the twin registers, for example. And we have several incubators who support in commercializing innovations. And we have the Knut and Alice Wallenberg Foundation that invests 3.1 billion Swedish crowns to advance data-driven life science in Sweden, for example, in Linköping. And Nasdaq Nordic, year 2018, the number of APOs was ranked as number 3 globally. And we excel in personalized medicine. And I would claim that we have the competence, the brains, and the talents, and we are working on several projects of attracting more talents. So with that, again, I want to thank the speakers. And maybe you have an additional question, Richard. And I also want to thank the audience. Back to you, Richard. Thank you very much. We will send all of you the report in a specific email after this. And all of you are, of course, welcome back with questions.
Well, thank you, Oliver. And I hope we gave you a snapshot. I mean, we could have easily taken a couple of hours. There were so many things that we just touched on that I would have liked to expand it on more, starting with basic research such as Protein Atlas, going back to the sort of history of manufacturing in Sweden. You know, it's one of the leaders in the Industrial Revolution to start with. So you've got this heritage of companies like Bofors, ABB, Volvo, and so on, Scania. And then we ended up by talking about one of the very exciting innovations, I think, is the Testa Center that was mentioned. And they recently had a sort of international, it's becoming international competition where people could come with their ideas and actually try them out in a pilot scale manufacturing plant. And the enthusiasm and it was wonderful to see. So I would encourage you all to get on, well, when we can travel, I know this is a virtual meeting, come and actually see that this isn't just talk, that the structure is there on the ground, the people are in place, the willingness to help is there. So I think, yes, as I say, hopefully when we can travel again, that Stockholm, Uppsala should be one of the first places on your travel agenda. So
yes, and Richard, sorry, Richard, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you and Janet Joy for a fantastic work together. And I hope that this will create a lot of attention, and we already had a lot of questions for foreign investors. So that's fantastic. Okay. Thank you.
So thank you from us, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks.